There are aunties and uncles I've met once. I have no moral duty to sacrifice anything for you.
I don't want to just sit there and be like, yeah, all right, cool. When someone's like, oh, Donald Trump's got a point.
In large gatherings in general, if someone says a point, it doesn't mean you have to refute. It's just not worth getting into it at that particular point.
She was denigrating people who claim benefits, basically saying they're lazy. Bearing in mind, like, her and my parents came from benefits. You know what I mean? They took,
Yeah.
You know, like, what are you talking about here?
Welcome to Think Twice. My name is Benno.
My name's Sam Tef.
And today, given the time of the year, we're gonna discuss family.
Yeah.
It's kind of important, right?
Let's wish them Merry Christmas first.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Yeah, I hope you get everything you wanted from Father Claus, Santa Claus,
Santa
Father
Claus?
Christmas. Yeah. And all that stuff. I'm not a huge Christmas person though.
Is it?
Yeah.
What about it isn't turning you off?
I don't know, bro. Like, I think when you're younger, you just have a little bit more time to enjoy Christmas. It just feels like I'm working. Okay, a day, back to working. That's how it feels. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's not, I don't ever feel like it's a period of time that you're enjoying. Maybe like later on in life, I might get to enjoy it a bit more.
Fair enough. I like me some Christmas though.
I swear.
Yeah, I do like the family
You are
time.
that kind of guy though,
Yeah, come on. Everyone gather around the fireplace. Let's sing songs.
Is that with family, right?
Yeah.
So that brings us on to our first question.
Nice.
Oh, segue. Do large family gatherings force us to behave inauthentically?
I think they do. I think large family gatherings definitely force us to behave inauthentically. And I think ultimately it's quite important for us to try to be authentic at these large family gatherings. But what happens is that you're surrounded by uncles and aunties who see you a certain way and have an idea of who you are from a past life. And you have to sort of try to conform to that. And unfortunately, that conflict between who they believe you to be and who you feel like you are makes us have to conform and behave inauthentically. What do you think?
Yeah, I do think you behave differently. It's kind of for like multiple reasons. It's like to sort of, as you said, manage the dynamics of how people understand you and how you understand people.
Sure.
And it sort of promotes respect between family members if you never delve too deep into things. And on that same point, it reduces conflict. Like, I saw like a stat that like 50% of families experience conflicts during family gatherings, which is...
Around Christmas time. It's going to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what happens is, particularly in like my sort of family or families of people who are first, second generation, the people older than you, not only and not from your generation, English probably isn't their first language.
Right.
So as a result, you have to change the way you communicate in order to actually communicate, if that makes sense. Like the way you sound,
Yeah, to facilitate their situation. And I think obviously we come from African households. There's a level of reverence and respect that you pay to the older generation. But there comes a point at which you are sacrificing yourself a bit too much for me. You're behaving too inauthentically. You're doing too much reverence, and you're not being yourself in the family gathering. And I think what that promotes is like we're not having relationships based on a person who I'm not.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like my uncle or auntie believes me to be the kid that she changed the nappies of 20 years ago, and I'm now an adult. Like we're having a relationship, a fake relationship almost. And I think we have a responsibility to try to avoid that. No?
I agree. So like, you saying you shouldn't do it. Most people do it, but you're saying you shouldn't do it.
Yeah, like I wanna believe that there's a world where I can go to a family gathering, and if some relative, an older relative in my family, says a wild political take, I want to believe there's a way for me to challenge that, and we have a conversation like adults. Do you get what I'm trying to say? I don't want to just sit there and be like, yeah, all right, cool. When someone's like, oh, Donald Trump's got a point. I want to come back at them, you know what I mean? I want to have an adult conversation and a debate. Otherwise, my relationship with that family member is now predicated on my acceptance of what they said.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And we're going to continue, and those things will build up, and we're now having an inauthentic relationship.
It will come probably more in the second point, but it really does depend on your relationship with these people.
Of course.
So in large gatherings in general, if someone says a point, it doesn't mean you have to refute, right? Like, so like in like even a friendship setting, there are friends that you're closer to. They might say something that you disagree with, but it's just not worth getting into it at that particular point.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm not saying that you have to challenge everything, but are you saying that you would have to challenge things in those settings? Or are you saying that like you could just let it slide or you couldn't let it slide?
I mean, I feel like I could let it slide in situations where I don't actually desire to have an authentic relationship with said family member, right? They are too removed from me, or like, you know, I barely know them. So it's like, I'm not gonna make a big thing out of something when I don't care too much about the relationship. But with most family, I wanna believe that we're in a situation, if I'm spending Christmas with you, there's a level of familiarity there that means I want to have an authentic relationship with you. But there will be some people we can leave by the wayside.
Yeah, but like,
we don't have to fight every battle.
Precisely. And that's where I'm at with it. I'm sort of like, I don't believe you should change, but I then don't believe I have to have like a good relationship with everybody there. Like, and by not engaging in certain topics or not engaging with certain family members, it doesn't mean you're changing. Because I would behave the same if there was a friend that I don't particularly want to have a close relationship with. And so it's more about the idea of large gatherings rather than the fact it being your family. That's basically the point that I'm trying to make.
No, I hear it.
Large gathering situations are just very different to interpersonal relationships.
I agree. I mean, a good comparison is a workplace, right? If you go to work, you're in a sort of group setting, you may actually be surrounded by people who you don't care that much with. You've got an authentic relationship with them or not, you're there to work. And in those scenarios, you let more slide. You know what I mean? You're not getting into political debates at work. But to me, it's like, if I'm spending Christmas with you, I can't be biting my tongue on Christmas Day. That's mad. Don't you think?
It depends how big your family is. Like, I think it's obviously different for everybody, but when you go to Christmas with like 20 plus people.
You have quite a big Christmas, isn't it?
Yeah. With a lot of people there. I don't have the time, like, and I just don't care. Like, if I have to see you once a year, like, I just don't care. Like, or like a couple times a year. It's just not a battle I'm willing to fight. Like,
yeah, I was actually in a similar position last year. An auntie said something that I was like, I don't like this. And this is an auntie that, you know, she's one of my parents' best friends. They grew up together. She's been in my life for my entire life. I don't see her that often. Like, I could have let it slide, but I was like, we need to talk about this. And she was denigrating people who claim benefits, basically saying they're lazy. Bearing in mind, like, her and my parents came from benefits. You know what I mean? They took, you know what I mean? I was like, what are you talking about here? So I felt like I had to pull her up. And we had a bit of a tete-a-tete. We had a back and forth. And like, everyone in the room stopped talking and it's just me and her going back and forth. And at some point I was like, what am I doing? Why am I getting into this? But at the end of the conversation, I realized, like, as much as she did not accept my point, she never heard me at any point. She didn't want to hear it. I'm still the kid to her. There was other people in the room. And like, after the conversation, like, my brother came up to me, my sister came up to me, and they were like, we started debating those things now. So it meant something to other people in a way that I could not have foreseen. Do you know what I mean? And me taking that stand ended up working out in the end. Yeah. So I think if we just are authentic, we could get positive side effects of that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Even if I'm not heard by my auntie. If we just behave in authentic ways, then maybe...
Well, essentially, like, a mission isn't inauthenticity, if that makes sense. So, like, if you would be quiet in that situation all the time, that wouldn't be deemed as inauthentic, if that makes sense.
I would deem that as inauthentic, no?
Not if you're quiet in that situation all the time. Does that make sense? Like,
if you're behaving out of
precisely, we're talking about like
right.
how you would behave, right? And if behavior would then change, like if you would always challenge that and then you don't, I think then there's a problem. If you wouldn't always challenge it, or sometimes you would, sometimes you wouldn't, you just got to keep in line with your behavior, I think, in order to actually generate the relationships you want with your family.
Fair enough. Let me ask you a question. So do you think, like, in family, interpersonal relationships, conflict is a healthy part of a relationship?
It truly depends on your relationship with the family member. I feel like the word family is so ambiguous. I'll say it in the next question, really, but like, it's often conflated with like relations. So like, the fact that you're related to these people doesn't essentially make them your family. And I'm related to certain people, but I don't consider them family, really.
Right, you don't consider yourself to have like a meaningful relationship with them.
Precisely. So then like having conflict with people that aren't my people, it can really go south really quickly.
Yeah.
And I try and avoid. It's just better not to have conflict with people who you don't care for.
Right, but people you care for in your family, do you feel like conflict has been, like, in your experience, has been a part of like developing that relationship or not?
Yeah, I do think that's played a major role. Like, so the way we really connect to people is like feeling the same things, right? So if me and my brothers get beaten by my mum, we both know, all three of us know how it feels. We then can connect over that, for example.
Trauma bond.
You could call it that if you like. So like conflict obviously has then played a role, do you know what I mean? And and it's created like how you interact with people and what you're offended by. And I actually don't think I think there's better ways to progress as a family, but you know, I can't go back. I wasn't in charge then. So so I can't do it that way. But at one point, if the conflict just helps you to connect, basically.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think it also helps establish trust, because a conflict doesn't necessarily have to be like a physical conflict. It can be a conflict of desires or a conflict of interpretation. So like if you have two people that saw a situation two different ways, in that conflict, in that discussion, as long as it's healthy and respectful, you realize like what that person's boundaries are. You get to understand them on a deeper level, and understanding that person on a deeper level builds trust between you. So I think conflict is almost inevitable in a healthy family setting.
On to our second question.
Sir.
Do you have a moral duty to sacrifice yourself for family?
I think we absolutely do, yeah. I see my family as part of my community, and I think part of improving the well-being of my community is sacrificing myself. I sacrifice my time, my effort, my resources, you know, my care and love. Like all of these things to me nourish my community, and I have a moral duty to do that in order to uplift my community.
And you would say the same goes for like extended family?
Yeah, I think any person in my community, I have a moral duty to. Now, in actuality, I've got limited time and resources. And this is, personally, I think this is a flaw. But the way it works is that we extend our love, care, and time for people we feel more emotionally connected to, the people we bond with. And that happens to be immediate family first, immediate friends first, and then everyone else sort of comes after that. That's just part of being human. Like, we can only do so much. We only have so much capacity in our minds, in our like efforts. But I do think I have an extended moral duty to my extended family for sure. Do you not feel that way?
I don't feel I have a. It depends again. Like, so when I answered the question, it was like yes and no. Like, and I was like, why is it yes or no? And I actually was having this discussion. I wasn't going to talk about this, but I was having this discussion with someone in one of my group chats who's like a big football fan. And I was like, bro, how do you like love football like this? Like, that's crazy.
I think I know what you're talking about.
No, it wasn't one of ours. No, it wasn't one of ours. And I'm like, bro, how do you love football like that? And he comes up with reasons. And I'm like, I just don't buy those reasons.
Sure.
And then I was like, okay, so for example, I love Tef. Why do you love Tef? Because Tef is nice. No, that's more of an outcome. Do you get what I mean? And then it's like, oh, because Tef is funny. That's more of an outcome. Do you get what I mean? Why do you love Tef? And you love Tef because Tef does good things for you as well.
Right.
And over a period of time, those good things that you've done for me and I've done for you, you now love each other, right? So I've been practicing reciprocity is a major factor in whether you would sacrifice yourself for anybody. So when it comes to family in particular, unless you've had that, and what's happened is over years, so like I met my brothers or my mum when you were born and they've done things for me, I've done things for them. And over years, you've built a connection. Same with certain cousins. Over years, you've built that connection, and maybe even certain aunties and uncles, you built that connection. There are aunties and uncles I've met once. I have no moral duty to sacrifice anything for you. I have a greater obligation to yourself.
Right.
I have a great obligation to my friends even than this person that I've met once who happens to be my dad's sister.
Right.
So I just think that it's so nuanced and dependent on your relationship based on reciprocity to determine whether you should sacrifice yourself for your family or not.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think the reciprocity point that you made is a very good one. And like, I can't remember where I read this, but there was a maxim that someone said about the one thing that's for sure about humanity is that we love ourselves. And when we invest our time and effort and care into others and do those things for each other, we are in some way investing part of ourselves in other people. And by doing that, because we love ourselves, we extend our love to others. You captured it really nicely. One thing I would say though is that does sort of generate a bit of a weakness, because if we think about sort of globalized causes, things that we want to achieve on a national, global scale, whatever it might be, injustices that we want to fix, it does become quite hard to figure out a framework of making action on those things, because we're talking about a people that's across the world who might not have shared experiences with us and aren't geographically close to us, and we have no personal connection to them. So, because I agree with you about the reciprocity point, but when I was thinking about it, I just struggled to sort of make that connection. Because if we take that framework of reciprocity, how do we then action stuff that's happening in South Africa, Palestine, Yemen, the Congo? Like, where does that come in?
Back to my initial point, I didn't actually finish, weirdly enough.
My bad.
Because I got, no, it's not your fault, it's completely my fault. Because I got sidetracked in how I was explaining that.
Yeah.
Was when I was having that conversation around the football club and he's telling me how much he loves it.
Yeah.
And I was like, why do you love this place?
Right.
And he's sending me videos of when they won the league and when they're at the stadium and like when they're shouting their chants. And I'm like, look, bro, those are all outcomes. You don't love it. Like, why do you love this thing? Like, what does it do for you? This was like a very light WhatsApp conversation that got really deep real quick. But so I was talking about like...
This is on voice notes?
Yeah, we were going back and forth, like all of us in this conversation. And then he starts talking about the things that happened when he was younger. And back to your point, what's interesting about that is when you talk about those problems happening elsewhere, people have faced problems. Do you get what I mean? And for whatever reason, there might be a particular problem in another country that resonates with that particular person and that they want to help with. Because one person they don't have the empathetic sort of bandwidth to do everything, but there will be things that connect with you. I understand we want to sort of put it in a logical, intellectual space in which we can understand why this person will feel this way, but we don't know, and it'll be quite random, but people will feel a particular way. People house people from Ukraine, not because they've been to Ukraine, because they feel a particular way about those people. And it's a matter of the fact that you will feel particular ways about certain atrocities and want to help. Like a lot of white people like to help dogs for some reason. We don't get onto that, but and they were never a dog, but they had a dog at one point and they want to help other people's dogs. You know what I mean? Or they feel a particular way about animals. They've never probably met a lion, but they sponsor a lion. Do you get what I mean? And you just feel connected to things through probably things that happened in your childhood that we can't explain, but we don't have the data for it, basically.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement that is a weakness, but it's just something that we don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
We don't have all the answers.
In Jesus' name, it will be solved.
Yes, amen.
Onto our dilemma. Your partner tells you that her parents would like an expensive Christmas present from you. The price of the gift would stretch your budget significantly and make the upcoming months difficult, but would mean a lot to both your partner and her parents. Do you buy the gift they want?
Nah, I ain't buying that. I can't lie, I ain't buying that. It's gonna stretch me for upcoming months. Allow it. The thing is, look, it's not because, I'm not saying no because I don't want my partner and her parents to feel loved and for them to feel like I've considered them this Christmas. I just think like the cost of the gift is not the be all and end all. Like you can have a really thoughtful gift that, you know, caters to the people that they are and shows that you care and love them without it being a super expensive gift that breaks the bank. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand.
Do you buy the gift?
I'm torn, like, because for a gift to stretch me for a couple months, like, you must want like a Lambo or something, like, you know, like, respectfully, like, so.
I knew something like that was coming.
You must want a fucking house, bro. Like, what the fuck? And like, obviously, like, if it's a ridiculous gift, like, I would obviously not do it, but more time, like, even if I think, like, oh, say I'm going through an uncomfortable period and it will stretch me, I'd probably still get it, like, because I'll go back to this point that we went to Ayia Napa when we were 18, many years ago. And when we went to Ayia Napa, bro, I took out a credit card. I was working my arse off to try and get the money to go to this thing. And I remember how much it cost, and I swear to God, it nearly blew a hole in my pocket that holiday. And to this day, I can't remember the actual number. It would have been less than $1,000, but I can't remember. But at the time, it felt like more money than I've ever seen in my life.
It was a lot, yeah.
But all I remember was just how good that trip was. That trip was amazing.
There's memories still to this day.
Honestly, one of the best trips of my life. And because of that is the reason why, like, the same was with Ibiza when we went the year later. Like, it's the same thing with those things that, like, you stretch yourself at the time and it feels like the end of the world, but you have so much fun while you're there, or what you get means so much that, like, in a few years when you look back on it, you don't even remember how much it costs. You literally don't, and you're fine. But you just remember, like, the thing that you have is the memories, basically. That's basically what I'm getting.
I hear it. And the money will come back.
Exactly.
Yeah, the money will come back. The one thing I can't, like, connect here, though, is that it's a gift. It's not like an experience that you're sharing together. It's not...
What's holiday, like? Does that change things?
It probably does, actually.
Oh, does it actually?
Yeah, it probably does. Especially if, like, myself, my partner, and her parents are all in it together and we're creating, like, a timeless memory together, then I'm inclined to say the money has come back. Let's just blow the money. Yeah. I might say at that point.
But if it was like a material gift, you'd feel different.
Material gift, I'm like, where's the, like, sentimentality there even?
Yeah, I understand.
Because I think you're absolutely right. And I think the best gifts do that. The best gifts generate memories. They generate an emotional connection to something that you guys can enjoy forever now. It's timeless.
Like, there's a gift I'm getting for someone important pretty soon.
Yeah.
And it's a jacket, right? And the jacket is, like, created by me. Like, I've put everything on this jacket. The idea of the jacket is, like, on the day, it won't be that great. And, like, the person that's getting the jacket might not wear it that much that year or even the following year. But in a family, you have people that come after you, they might really like that jacket. And it passes through time. Do you get what I mean?
She'll love it, bro. She'll love it.
Yeah, I assume so. But, you know, I was trying to play my argument.
She will have got it by this point, by the time it comes out.
Yeah.
We'll know the answer.
Exactly. But, like, even if it was, like, earrings or something, like, say you got earrings for your girlfriend's mum, that gets passed down over time, and, like, a few generations later, it's like, oh, they still got these earrings, or an engagement ring that gets passed down, and, like, and it creates legacy. Do you get what I mean? So I don't know, man. I'll probably spend the money.
You're creating a compelling picture, to be fair, a generational one. Yeah. I do like that. I do like that a lot. I could be convinced.
Could be swayed.
Yeah,
you are swayed. When you say I could be swayed, that's when you're that's when you're gone.
I'm cooked.
Thank you for joining us, man. See you soon.
All right, see you next week.
Much love.
Check that. There's a red border.
Check my phone.
Audio? Yo, it's still recording.
Yeah. Should I stop the recording?
Yeah.